What's up, guys? Welcome back to another daily Bible reading snapshot. Today we're looking at Isaiah 7, 8, and 9. And we're also looking at Galatians chapter 4 in the New Testament. So Isaiah 7 begins to talk about the political situation that the people of Israel, specifically the people of Judah, the southern tribes, were in at this point. And the problem is you've got King Ahaz here who claims to be wanting to do the right thing here, but the problem is he is not trusting the Lord. He's going to be trusting these other foreign kings. And what God's trying to get him to do is to say, stop, no, trust me. Don't trust those foreign kings. And he's going to use Isaiah to do it. So problem was he was afraid of there was an alliance that took place that he was afraid of. The alliance was between his two northern neighbors. So Israel, obviously, is just north of Judah. So he's afraid of them teaming up with the Syrians, not the Assyrians. We're going to see both, but the Syrians. They were in league together. They were combined. So you've got Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, the king of Israel. Their combined effort was going to come down into Judah, and that obviously made King Ahaz really upset. It says his heart shook like the trees of the forest shake before the wind. So clearly he's afraid here. God tells Isaiah, go talk to him. Go with your son, by the way. So Isaiah and his son go walk up, and they're talking to him and say, hey, don't be afraid of these people. God says, don't be afraid of them. And Ahaz probably thinks, okay, preacher, thanks for telling me not to be afraid. Here's the problem. I'm the king. I have real things to deal with here. I should be afraid, and I'm going to make plans. And he says, look, there's going to come a time, within 65 years, the powers up in Ephraim, which the capital city of Ephraim, and Ephraim is another word for Israel. The capital city of Israel is Samaria, and the capital city of Syria is Damascus. And he says both of those capital cities in the next 65 years will be destroyed. They'll be laid waste. The stuff that you're afraid of, they're going to be gone. And then he says, then God speaks through Isaiah, and he says, okay, King Ahaz, ask for a sign. Literally, I'll do a miracle for you to prove that what I'm saying is right. And Ahaz says, no, I won't ask the Lord. I won't put the Lord to the test. And when you hear that, you might think, oh, that means he trusts God a lot. No. God obviously can see his motives. His motives are not that he trusts God. His motives are, I've already made up my mind. I'm not trusting God. I'm going to do something else. He was going to trust these other kings. And what he says next is, God says to Ahaz, he says, hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary men, that you weary my God also? This is Isaiah speaking. He says, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Wearying means that he's putting them to the test. He actually is putting them to the test by not asking for a sign, because God asked him to, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Ahaz says, I'm not going to do that. Isaiah says, okay, God's going to give you a sign then. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Which you might think, whoa, how do we get there? That's a Christmas time verse. That's a Christmas time verse because this is looking forward to the ultimate Messiah who's going to be called Emmanuel. And the biblical authors, specifically the gospel writers, take this and they say that's Jesus. Jesus is Emmanuel, born of a virgin, literally born of a virgin. And again, you might think, well, what is he talking about here? I thought he's talking about these kings that he's afraid of. And then it says, before he knows to choose good and evil, the people that you're afraid of will be destroyed. Now, this is super important for us as we approach prophecy like this, that is predictive prophecy, that we see a lot of times in the Bible, there are two fulfillments. There's a short-term and a long-term fulfillment. There's a temporary fulfillment, and then there's the ultimate fulfillment. What we see here is a perfect example of that, because in chapter 8, you look at it and you find a guy named Maher-shalal-hash-baz. You might say, well, who's that? Well, by the way, Bible trivia, that's the longest name in the Bible. We see that's Isaiah's next son. He goes to the prophetess, which I think is Isaiah's wife, and they have a kid. And you're thinking, okay, this is interesting. They're having a kid. They're going to name him Maher-shalal-hash-baz. He is the fulfillment of the prophecy. He's the one who, before he grows up and before he knows good from evil, that they are going to be not a problem anymore, these foreign kings. Now, you'll say, wait a minute, I thought a virgin shall conceive. Well, virgin also means young woman. It's the same word, and there's some debate about this. Well, clearly in the New Testament, Mary is a virgin. This lady clearly isn't, but she is a young woman. So it's a fulfillment in the short term, and that's what God was promising. But we know that there's something even beyond that. And we see a lot of that in chapter 9, because it says there's going to come a time where the people up in the northern tribes of Israel, Zebulun, Naphtali, up where the area called Galilee is, they will walk in darkness. But the thing is, they're going to see a great light. Someone is going to come along in Galilee, in the place that was first attacked. Think about the northern tribes, right? The place that's first attacked by all these foreign kings. They walked in darkness. They had a horrible time for hundreds of years. But here's the thing. They're going to see a great light. Someone's going to come there. And then it talks about how there's going to be these wars and these things going on. And then a child is going to be born. Verse 6. For to us a child is born. To us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end. On the throne of David over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Now, clearly, we're talking about the Messiah, Jesus, the Son that's going to be born. And that's why even in this text, there's this son that's promised that we see in Isaiah 8, the short term. But then Isaiah says, well, the son, though, who's going to be Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, he's coming too. And when he comes, he's going to bring to light all the darkness that's going on. And then he finishes this chapter by talking about the pride and the arrogance of the people here that are going to be judged. So do you see how in the book of Isaiah, prophecy is more complicated than it might seem? You might think, well, every prophecy is just one prophecy, one fulfillment. Sometimes, a lot of times actually, the fulfillments that we see in the New Testament are like the double fulfillment or the ultimate fulfillment because there's a short-term fulfillment earlier. So very interesting. If that's new information to you, take that as it is, because it's interesting when we see any of these prophecies that are about Jesus, there is typically also another thing that it's talking about. It's not always just talking about Jesus, but I think in Isaiah 9, it's talking about Jesus here, that Jesus is going to be the ruler. He's going to be the one who reigns. Now, I like that we're going straight into Galatians chapter 4, because what you're going to see here is Paul describes the time when they lived under the law as Jewish people. He says, in the same way, we also, when we were children, were enslaved to the elementary principles of this world. But, verse 4, when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons. And because you're sons, God has sent his Spirit, the Spirit of his Son, into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. We have a personal relationship with the Father. So you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. The reason I like that we're reading both of these together today is you see the promise and the fulfillment. Isaiah promises it. God speaks and he promises that a son is going to be born of a virgin, Emmanuel, which means God with us. Then the son who's going to be this divine ruler. He's going to be God and a son, and he's going to be born. How does that take place? When the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those of us who are under the law and cursed by the law because of our sin. The redemption plan of God is on display here. That God is doing something, that he's accomplishing something through his prophets, that he's going to see fulfilled in Jesus. That is how this book fits together. You know, this book, Galatians, was written over 700 years after the book of Isaiah. But guess what we see? Perfect continuity, because God is its author, both Isaiah and Galatians. So let that be an encouragement to you as you read, and as plenty of people in the world will question the veracity of the Bible. Passages like this will help remind us that God is in control, God is the author, and we can trust him. So thanks for reading with us. We'll see you back tomorrow for another daily Bible reading snapshot.